Okay, and so what I was showing you was, okay, so I just put the old stuff back on here. What I was showing you is that basically it got hit right here. Bing. And it blew a hole in the back end of it there. So now it's my job. I'm going to put this here new panel on that, and I'm also going to replace this panel here. So in order to do that, first you got to take this old panel off, and to do that, we got to detach it from where it's connected. There's a rivet here, took that out. There's welds here, so we grind those off. You got welds all along here. Now a keen-eyed viewer is going to recognize that I have all this part to this panel, and if you come over here, I cut it right here and not down the length of that, and there's a good reason for that. Basically, I'm allowed to section it right here. I'm allowed to cut that one right here and weld it right here. Same thing here. I'm allowed to do it right here. So after you cut the old panel, realistically what you want to do is you want to save yourself some room on this one. We'll get to that later on. But once you take all the welds off, you just take this panel off. You just take it off. So now that we got the old panel off, we can work on getting this one off, which I've already done. Just grind out the welds where it's connected here, and I put this vice grip on it so that way it wouldn't fall whenever I did this video. Basically, you just take that off, and we're going to put a new one of these on there as well. Just got to go to the parts department to get that part. So next stage is the next stage is that we're going to grind off all this glue, all that glue, all this, grind off all this glue, and make this all bare metal so that way the glue that we put on, the new glue, is going to stick with that other panel. So I have the new part and the instructions on it, but you might be wondering, how do I know exactly where to put it? Well, I leave the marks from the old one that I took off and literally just slide it right into the same spot. And then I'll drill some holes and put rivets in those holes, and then I'll know exactly where it goes. Okay, I've got the holes drilled out for the rivets. Holes drilled out. Just gotta take it off and glue it in. Okay, it's the next day, and the glue is dry from that last piece that we put in. All the rivets are in. This one required 2 bolts right there. So we're prepping this part. We need to fit it on there first. So we had to take the trough off that part and cut it off there so it'll fit onto the car. Okay, I put the new part on here, and here's where it gets a little bit interesting. So now we have to fit it, and like I said before, I leave the old seam sealer and all that on there because right here you can see where it curves in. Now I can move that in to fit exactly right there. So I know it's going to go there because it's going to fit right where the old one was. And then the other thing is that, see, I leave the old stuff on there longer than the new stuff, so they overlap. And what that allows me to do is to cut them both at the same time so that what leaves here and what leaves there, the break is in the exact place that I need it to be to weld it together, so I don't have a big gap or a little gap or whatever. Because you see, the other option that I could go is that I could measure from here to let's say here or whatever, and then cut that and then measure from and I'm measuring. But there's no really good anchor point to know where to start measuring from, so your line isn't going to be 100% straight, and you could have crooked, you could have open gap here, you could have a big gap down here, and so it's just easier. So I just take the places where I know I'm gonna cut somewhere around here, and so I just leave enough on this side, and then I leave enough on this side for the new part, stick them together, cut them both at the same time, and my line is going to be exactly straight and where it needs to go. So let's get ready to prep this, and we'll come back. Okay, so it's day 3, and I've put the quarter panel, the new one, right where the old one sat. So now it's time to make sure that the door is lined up and it doesn't poke out at all, and that also the gap is correct all the way up and down. Yep, seems fine. Okay, and so then I mark where I'm going to cut it. Alright, so after I get done marking where I'm going to cut it, the next thing is to mark the fasteners that are going to go here. So some of these are going to be rivets and some of these are going to be welds, and I don't know exactly where to put what fastener. That's where the computer comes in. Tesla was kind enough to give us repair procedures for this quarter panel, and right here shows you exactly which fasteners go where. See, these are going to be spot welds, and then SO8s, S18s, and so on. Okay, so now it's glued and riveted and spot welded. You see I put some spot welds right there. That's the spot weld machine, and then behind it is the rivet machine. So the rivets were done with the rivet machine, and the welds were done with the spot welding machine, and it's glued and everything, but I can't do the MIG welding until tomorrow, until it's dry. So that's it for today. And here's a total look. Got some spot welds. We got some blind rivets, go down there. These are where the plug welds are going to go. I'm going to do some plug welds over there. Here's where we made those cuts, right there and right there. Making sure those gaps are tight so we don't have to weld so like a bridge or anything. Got rivets. And I got vice grips on it just to be safe, just to keep the... Okay, see you on the other side. So I'm not allowed to weld where the glue is because it will separate the glue, but this is why we like a tight seam here, because I can just blop weld right on that seam, and I'm going to do that all the way around this. So this is the more skillful part of this whole process. These are what's called tack welds, and basically what I'm doing here is I'm trying to line up the line. I'm trying to make sure that it's flat, and where it's not flat, like here, I don't know if you can see that, but like this one's like overlapped. This one's down and this one's up. There we go. That's a good angle. I will take this guy, and so what I'll do is I'll jam this in there, get it to line up roundabout, and then I'll put a tack weld right there, and then it won't move. And then I'll do that for the whole length of the thing. See, now it is pretty flush right there in that corner. I still got to tack all these up, but once I tack and it's all like straight, I'll come back and I'll fill the gap from here to here, fill the gap from here to here, fill the gap from here to here. You know what I mean? Hey, looks like dog shit. Nah, it'll work. It'll be fine. Just gonna grind that flat and some Mondo on it. Do the same to the other ones and ship it out. Okay, so I've welded and I've grinded them where I've welded. And so the next step is to put Bondo over it to make it flat, so when we paint it, it looks seamless. And then I'm going to put seam sealer on all the edges to make sure it's watertight. And then we'll ship it to paint. And I'll give you a little update after I Bondo it so you can see what that looks like. Here, I'll show you how I prep it for Bondo. Sand it. And see, as I'm sanding it, I'm pulling off the paint, because underneath it is bare metal. But I've got to sand it so the Bondo will stick. This is called a mechanical adhesion, because it's not using chemicals to adhere. It's using mechanics. Okay, and here we are. Here's the finished product. We got seam sealer all where it needs the seam sealer. We've got the Bondo where we need the Bondo. Bondo right there. Bondo right here. And so yeah, and I've also seam sealed it in here. And right there, and right there, that's seam sealer. And so when I take the gate off, it'll be... So the whole time I did this quarter panel replacement, I did not check the gap between the deck lid and the quarter panel. But look at this. Perfect. Perfect gap. All the way through. Didn't even look at it the whole time. And it's fine.